Hello, friends. Welcome to the last part of our cognitive archaeology program. In continue of last parts, you realize that material culture, in the context of archaeology generally and cognitive archaeology in particular, equals with things and objects in another sciences, right? Also, you found that material culture has agency, which agency refers to an active role in making things, in creation of things or artifacts or material culture. We have also human becoming. In fact, Professor Malafori explores the concept of human becoming as an ongoing dynamic process rather than a static state of genetic predisposition. This idea emphasizes the creative engagement between humans and their material environments, particularly through the act of mark making. Key concepts of human becoming. The first one is, in fact, definition. Its definition. Human becoming refers to the continuous transformation of humans, highlighting that this process is inter, um, indeterminate and incomplete. It contrasts with the notion of becoming human, which suggests a fixed endpoint in evolution. The process involves, in fact, the process of human becoming involves both evolutionary and ontogenetic dimensions, indicating that human development is influenced by biological evolution and individual life experiences. We have also mark making, right? I told you mark making. Mark-making is described as a fundamental mode of human expression that facilitates material signification. This involves creating meaningful representations through physical marks, which serve as a medium for cognitive engagement with the world. Milleforis posits that these marks are not just artifacts, but are integral to understanding how humans interact with their environment, shaping their cognitive processes and cultural practices. Material engagement theory is, in fact, the theory of Professor Milleforis, which is a combination and an interplay between mind, brain, body, and the environment, known as MET. Also, we have paleoneurology or neuroarchaeology, which is another dimension of cognitive archaeology. Well, as you found, material culture equals with things or objects, which refers to intertwining of brain, mind, body, and environment. There are two key theories in this regard. The first one is the theory of entanglement by Professor Ian Hodder, and the second one is MET or material engagement theory by Professor Melaforis and Rainfurrow. Well, the first one is entanglement, right? Well, the entanglement theory, developed by renowned archaeologist Ian Hodder, this theory offers a fascinating perspective on the relationship between humans and material culture, which highlights how deeply intertwined these elements are in shaping our cognition and social practices. Well, regarding the complex relationship between humans and things or objects, Ian Hodder's theory titled Entanglement of Relationships Between Humans and Objects. um, in fact, this theory is based on the importance and necessity of paying attention to the nature and essence of the objects themselves, and then their reciprocal relationships in shaping society and humanity. In this entanglement theory, Hodder examines the interdependence, interdependencies, in fact, interdependencies between humans and objects, providing a framework for understanding the complexities of human-object interactions. Hodder's main hypothesis revolved around the concept of entanglement, which he defines as a complex network of dependencies and relationships between humans and objects. He believes that humans are deeply surrounded by these networks, and these interdependencies have significant impacts on our understanding of human history and cultural evolution. Meanwhile, cultural evolution is a key concept that, if you Google about it, you will find a huge main resources on that. Well, to illustrate the concept of entanglement, Ian Hodder presents various hypothetical scenarios. One particularly striking example, or it's better to say scenario, is placing a piano at a Mesolithic hunter-gatherer site in Lipinski Weir. He proposes this scenario to provoke thought about the entanglement of humans and objects in various contexts. The placement of a modern musical instrument in an ancient site highlights the paradoxical nature of such a discovery, inviting us to reconsider how we understand objects within their cultural and temporal frameworks. In interpreting this image, in fact, the main image is which has placed in the first side, and the second one, which has changed by Ian Hodder, is this one, right? Well, in interpreting this image, which is a reconstruction based on finding from bones, plants, and stone tools, Hodder emphasized that at first glance, viewers see an overall image of a society engaged in their activities. Although objects facilitate the flow or fluidity of life and actions depicted in the image, our attention is primarily focused on humans and their society, with objects remaining passive in their background. By introducing an unconventional object into the scene, I mean the piano, like a piano, it inevitably compels us to take a deeper look at objects and their interrelations. Hodder raises the question of why we are surprised to see a piano in a hunter-gatherer society. This shift redirects our attention from humans and their society to the objects themselves, along with all their identities and the multiple connections they create. In fact, by presenting this scenario, Hodder seeks to encourage us to accept the active role of objects in creating interactions and entanglements between humans and things. In other words, he uses this example to explain the concept of entanglement and demonstrate how objects can become intertwined with human activities across different times or eras. Now, I think by in fact, explaining this theory, you found in fact, the material culture that I told you that has agency or active role. I think you have found better. Well, there are key concepts um, in entanglement theory. The first one is mutual influence. Well, at the heart of entanglement theory is the idea that humans and objects are not separate entities. Rather, they are entangled. This means that human actions are influenced by the material culture around them, while objects themselves gain meaning through our interactions. So there is a mutual interaction between humans and things. This reciprocal relationship challenges the traditional view that separates human agency from the material world, and also the traditional view separates, in fact, considers uh, a passive role for the material culture or for things, in fact. The second key concept in entanglement theory is cognitive processes. Ian Hodder argues that cognitive processes are not defined to our minds, but are distributed across both human beings and their environments. To truly understand human thought, we must examine how it is embedded within social and material contexts. This perspective shifts the focus from viewing cognition as an internal process to recognizing the role of external factors. Another key concept in this theory is archaeological implications. The implications of this theory for archaeology are profound. It encourages researchers to consider how artifacts influence social dynamics and cultural practices. By analyzing the entanglements between humans and things, archaeologists can uncover deeper insights into past societies and their way of life. The second theory that I would talk about it is material engagement theory. Well, alongside Ian Hodder's theory of human-object entanglement, one of the most prominent among them is material engagement theory proposed by Professor Malaforis. MET suggests that human intelligence and cognition are not limited to the brain, but are distributed throughout the human body and the material world. MET also shares similarities with Hodder's entanglement theory in that both refer to the reciprocal relationship between humans and material culture, or things, in fact, in a general context, general realm, in fact. MET places greater emphasis on the cognitive and neurological dimensions of this relationship and draws on research from fields such as cognitive archaeology and neuroarchaeology. Also, Material engagement theory proposes the human cognition which is not confined to the brain. It is distributed across the body and material culture. It also cognition from point of material engagement theory, cognition emerges through interactions with tools and artifacts which act as extensions of the human mind. So we have, based on the material engagement theory, we have not only have, in fact, mind. There is not definite place for mind. In fact, our mind not only is in our brain, uh, but also uh, is in continuous of our body. And in fact, there is not a definite place for our mind since it is flow. Also, cognition as a synergistic process. Human cognition arises from the dynamic interplay between brains, bodies, and things. This process suggests that thinking occurs through material culture rather than being solely an internal mental activity. And this is why I wrote in here that we have thinking and thinking. It refers to the idea that we are making a thing while we are thinking, or we are making a thing while think. And since we do in fact two actions, thinking and making thing, in fact, Melaforis talks about thinking. Okay, and this term is, in fact, is introduced by Melaforis and others. So, also the from point of cognitive, material engagement theory, in fact, objects are not passive. They actively shape cognitive processes and human behavior. This challenges traditional views that separate mental representations from material interactions, and also neural plasticity and cognitive evolution. The use of tools leads to changes in brain structure and function, demonstrating that cognitive evolution is linked to material engagement. As humans interact with their environment, their cognitive abilities transform, highlighting the evolutionary significance of these interactions. Melophories addresses the fundamental question of what it means to human becoming and to being human, as well as the factors that distinguish humans from other beings. His answer leads him not to studies of evolutionary biology, but to the study of cognitive mind and the construction of a framework regarding the nature and essence of the mind from a new perspective. So, this is why Melaforis argues that the use of tools and other artifacts fundamentally shapes human cognitive abilities. From this viewpoint, it follows that objects are not passive, rather, they are active elements in cognitive processes that constitute human thought and behavior through their spatiality. Therefore, MET, the attention of MET was put on how things were used rather than what they mean, or how things mean rather than what they mean. Also, Material engagement theory enables us to understand the making of past ways of thinking as they emerge from the consequences of the engagement between humans and material culture. And this is why we say cognitive archaeology is basically the study of ancient mind by material culture. It also allows producing explanations of archaeological questions by referring our analysis in terms of how things constitute the phenomena that we observe archaeology in the context of archaeology, in fact. And also, it is a continually updating and changing research program which provide provides an archaeological perspective regarding the interactions between cognition and material culture through time. And in fact, this is mm, in fact the key source for studying material engagement theory written by Professor Lambros Molaforis. I'm really inspired by him and how things shape the mind. A theory of material engagement is the name of this book. And if you would have this book, I can provide you by its PDF. There are three main hypotheses in MET: the extended mind, an active sign, and material agency. Well, the extended mind. Well, the extended mind, in fact. Extended mind is the constitutive intervening of cognition with material culture. It, in fact, groups to an active, distributed, embodied, and extended senses. Processes are distributed and extended, in fact, process of thinking, process of making things beyond the individual and incorporating the material environment. In this realm, cognition is softly assembled from a variety of non-localizable mental resources, both neural and extraneural, and skills spanning the boundaries of the individual brain and body. And this is, in fact, the Clay tablets of Linear B is a textbook example in studying and realizing extended mind example. We have an active mind. Well, the inactive mind, in fact, uh, the inactive mind refers to the cohabitation of mind and matter that brings forth the world. Material signs do not represent or stands for some concepts. Also, inactive signification at this regard, in this term, in fact, a material sign has and acquires meaning in virtue of what it is and what humans do with that. Also, therefore, the inactive mind moving beyond representations. In fact, it refers to this that what a material sign means, um, it changes, in fact, to the how it means, right? So, for material semiosis, meaning meaning is not the product of representation, but the product of a process of conceptual integration between material and conceptual domain. And this is the clay tokens are an example for the inactive sign. In fact, uh, and what about material agency? Agency is the relational product of an action situated in a specific place and time. Also, from point of material agency, both humans and material culture has agency, which cannot be entangled. It means that we cannot even count the measure and the amount of, in fact, which of these terms, humans or material culture, has more agency. This is wrong, in fact. So, at the Potter's Wheel is one of the famous example and research of Professor Malafrois. At this case, if you exactly Google this title at the Potter's Wheel, you will find the article. Well, at this article and research, the shaping of the pot, it explains that the shaping of the pot becomes an act of collaboration between the potter and the mass of wet clay rapidly spinning upon the wheel. There is a constant tactile but also clearly visible dynamic tension in the movement of clay. On the one hand, it the centrifugal force imparted to the clay by the movement of the wheel and the hands of the potter, and on the other hand, the skillful guidance of this force by the potter's fingers raising or pressing down the clay to the desired form. It is at the potter's fingers that the form and shape of the vessel is perceived as it gradually emerges in the interactive tension between the centrifugal force and the texture of the wet clay. And what about human becoming and its relation with, in fact, making? Well, human becoming and its relationship with making. I explained. I explained it in the first slide of this part. But for more explanation, in fact, in human becoming and while making a thing, components of the thought or action unit are always present in the continuous exchange between artisan and materiality. The decision at the process of, in fact, making a thing and human becoming, we know that there is a, in fact, direct relationship between human becoming, the process of becoming, and the process of making a thing. So, at this process, the decision could be influenced by the way the stone responds to working or by the use of pre-wrought bezel into which to fit the stone. As the stone is worked, so the jeweler might decide to switch from bezel to wire wrapping. Therefore, imagine a jeweler is making a bezel, right? Well, by the way, that type of stone we wanna use for making our jewelry. Um, by the way the stone responds to working, or by the use of pre-wrought bezel into which to fit the stone. So, as the stone is worked by the jeweler, so the jeweler might decide to switch from bezel to wire wrapping. So, maybe at the beginning, the jeweler or the artisan um, uh, in fact, had uh, an eagerness to make a bezel, to create a bezel, but depending on the behavior or response of that type of stone, or for example gold, we will say that, we will witness that, um, in fact, the jeweler might decide to switch the type of that thing from, for example, bezel to wire wrapping. Why? Depending on the behavior of thing. And this is exactly the example of making a potter, which you saw before. Okay, thank you so much for hearing me. I hope this program uh, at least made you a little interested, and I hope it has been helpful for all of you. Just another point is that, in fact, I um, I should talk a little about, in fact, the cognitive archaeology in the context of Indian archaeology, in fact. So, the only point that I would talk, the point is that I know that the archaeology of, for example, India or my country, Iran, or even in the most of West countries, for West, in fact, universities focus on a special, in fact, archaeology from point of era, and more importantly, the place, the geography. For example, in India, I know that the most, in fact, consideration is on archaeology of India. But I suggest you that if you are really interested in archaeology of other regions in the world, expand your case studies. In fact, from point of the archaeological eras, times, and places. For example, you can consider the archaeology of India with east of Iran, or for example, my case study is the archaeology of Iran and the Mesopotamia, uh, and also for working and being a scholar in cognitive archaeology or in evolutionary cognitive archaeology. I suggest you that search all key points that I talked a little about them, and search them, and start to study the main sources, the main books, and try to realize what each of these theories says. Okay, and then you have to find your way how you would use the cognitive archaeology in general, and one or two, for example, specific theories in particular in your research. So this is your duty, this is the thing that I that I, in fact, try to know. And if you would do the same, you have to start